Hey everybody, today we're going to take a look at the updated voter registration data for the month of February. And keep in mind, this is not my own data. This is from Michael Prusser, and he's associated with Decision Desk. So all this is going to be from his X/Twitter. So we've got more than 20 states to go through, so we're going to try to go quick. And a few other things to mention. Some states update this data more frequently than others. Some states also clean their voter rolls more or less often. And other states have different requirements for what it means to be considered an active voter. So just keep that in mind as we go through this. But we're going to start here in Pennsylvania. And at the top right, we've got the 2024 margin. Trump won it by 1.7. The changes since January are the Republicans have gone up almost 2,000. Democrats have dropped off more than 11,000. Other and independent is up about 4,800. The total active party registration here is the GOP is over 3.5 million. The Dems over 3.6. Other is at 1.3. So the overall advantage here favors the Dems, and it's by 105,000. It sounds good for them, except back in 2020, they had a massive advantage of over 685,000. So that number has dropped sharply over the past 4 years, and if it continues, the GOP is going to flip this and they're going to have the party registration advantage. But one last thing to keep in mind is there are a lot of legacy Democrats in a state like Pennsylvania. That might just mean they may have voted Republican for a while, but ancestrally they're still affiliated with the Democrats and they haven't yet bothered to change their voter registration. That's definitely not going to be all of it, but that could explain some of it. So based on all this registration data, this state is clearly moving toward the right. Let's go to the next state, Arizona. Trump won it by more than 5.5%. This state updates less frequently. So since October, Republicans have gained over 41,000. Dems, 22,500. Other is between the two major parties at over 31,000. The Republican advantage here is over 314,000. Going back to 2020, they had less than half the advantage they do now. So even though Biden snagged the state in 2020, since then the GOP has gained a lot in terms of party registration. Next state, North Carolina. Trump won it by over 3.2. Since January, they must have cleaned their voter rolls and gotten rid of anybody inactive. So the Republicans here went down a ton, almost 90,000. The Democrats went down even more, over 142,000. Other is down even more than that at 166,000. And take a look at this advantage here. It's for the Dems, but it's by only 37,500. Going back to 2020, they were up 391,000. So another remarkable decline and a rightward shift. It's very possible in the next couple of updates, the Republicans may have taken the advantage here. Next, we've got New Jersey. Not really a swing state, but Harris won it by under 6%. Since January, the GOP here is up over 10,000. Dems have dropped off 2,400. Other is up over 11K. The Dems have a massive advantage here. It's at 883,000, but that is down from 2020 where they were at 1,079,000. So it's too early to say if this state could become purple in the near future. Republicans are banking on it, but Democrats are saying it was just a one-off. So this will be a great state to follow over the next couple of elections. Next, New Hampshire. Harris won the state by 2.8. The previous update was in November. Republicans went down almost 9,000. Democrats a little over 9,300, and other down almost 6,500. The Republicans have an advantage here. It's at 48,000, and that has flipped from back in 2020 where Dems were up a little under 15,000. But this is also a state where other or independents outnumber both of the two major parties at almost 380,000. Next state, Nevada. Trump flipped it and won it this time. He was over 3.1, and the changes since last month are Republicans went down over 3,800. Dems way more than that at 8,100. Other even went down more than 4,600. And take a look at this party registration advantage. It's flipped. Republicans are now in the lead at just 187. On election day of 24, Dems were up over 7,100. In 2020, they were up 86,000. So a lot of movement there toward the right over the past 4 years. And there's definitely going to be a lot of bragging rights in the GOP flipping the registration here. So it's another fascinating and rightward moving state. Next, in Iowa, this one was not close at all. Trump won it by 13.2. Both parties gained more than 5,000 since January. The GOP was a little bit more. Other had the most at over 13K. Republicans here have an advantage of 191,000. That's a lot more than back in 2020 where they were up just 20,500. So not much to say here. At this point, it looks like a pretty solidly red state, and it may only even be getting redder. Next, New Mexico. Here, Harris won the state by 6%. That was by a wider margin than New Jersey. The GOP gained here 721. 251, Dems went down 210. The advantage here for the Dems is 142,000. It's a little bit lower than back in 2020 where they were up 185,800. This is yet another state where Republicans hoping to put it in play in terms of competitive status. Dems again are going to say not so fast. Next state, Alaska. Trump won it here by over 13. Not many changes here at all. Republicans up just 89. Dems dropped off 92. And overall, this is another state with a lot of independents or unaffiliated voters. They're up to 390,000. But between the two major parties, Republicans are up 74,000. It's a little bit higher than back in 2020 where it was at 67,000. The next state is Colorado. Harris won it by 11%. Republicans here went down 297. Dems dropped off a lot more than that at over 1,400. Other gained over 11,000, and they are the leader in the party registration. But between the Dems and the Republicans, Dems are up 102,000. That's a little lower than it was on election day at 110, and a little higher than back in 2020. So not a whole lot of movement here either way in Colorado over the past 4 years. Next, how about the state of Florida? Trump's margin here was 13.1. Republicans gained a lot of voters, 5,200. Dems dropped off a ton, over 16,000. The GOP advantage keeps going up here. It's at 1,175,000. If you go back to 2020, it's hard to believe, but the Democrats actually had the advantage at 134,000. So Republicans may eventually hit a ceiling here in terms of party registration, but it looks like they're not even close to that point just yet. Next, how about a blue state, Delaware? Harris won it by 14.7. Republicans went down 168. Dems more than that at 639. Other gained 3,700. Dems have an advantage here of 143,000, and it's also very similar to November of 2020 where they were up 147,000. So not a whole lot of change here in this state. Let's do another one. We've got Oregon. Harris winning it by 14.3. GOP down 251. Dems down even more at almost 1,000. The advantage here is for the Dems at 266K. It's a little bit lower than 4 years ago where Dems were up 297,000. But it's another state where other or independents far outweigh both political parties. The next state is going to be Nebraska. Trump winning it by more than 20 points. Both parties losing voters here. Republicans almost 4K, Democrats over 5K. But the GOP has a big advantage here, 291,000. That is higher than November of 2020 where they were up 236,000. So that state still does look to be pretty red, even though Democrats might see some bright spots around Omaha. In Kentucky, a super red state, Trump won it by more than 30 points. Republicans up 2K here. Dems dropped off 1,200. The GOP advantage here is over 177,000. Definitely a lot higher than back in 2020 where Dems had the advantage of 103,000. This has been a red state for a while now, but the party registration has only recently caught up and the GOP finally has the lead. In Rhode Island, Harris won the state by 13.8. GOP again gaining voters, almost 500. Dems dropped off 1,900. Other or independents lead both parties at 365,000. The Dems though do have an advantage over the GOP at 165,600. That is a little bit lower than November of 2020 where Dems were up 222K. Next state, Idaho. Trump won it by a massive 36.5. Both parties dropped off here. This time the Republicans actually lost more, over 4,200. Dems almost 3,100. The GOP advantage here is highly significant. It's over 527K, and that is a lot higher considering the size of the state than November of 2020 where they were up 390K. Next state, another similarly red one. We've got Oklahoma. Trump here up 34.2. Both parties lost almost the same amount. It's about 44 to 45,000. So a lot of cleaning up the voter rolls here. The advantage for the Republicans here is 638K. That is clearly a lot higher than back in 2020 where they were up 389K. This is another state where Republicans could be maxed out at some point, but yet again, it looks like that's not the case just yet. How about in Utah? Trump won it by 21.6. Republicans up 975. Dems dropped off 1,200. GOP advantage 690,000. That's up a little bit from back in 2020 where they were up 620K. How about in Louisiana? Similar margin here. Trump won it by 22. GOP dropped off 298. Dems dropped off way more than that at over 2,000. The Dem advantage here is 53,500. That is in significant danger of flipping this year. It's another red state with a lot of legacy Democrats, and you can see the advantage for the Dems has significantly dwindled from back in 2020 where they were up 249,000. So if you're looking for more bragging rights, Republicans looking to add this state to their column pretty soon. In South Dakota, Trump won it by under 30 points. He's at 29.2. Republicans gained 477. Dems lost 224. GOP advantage 173,700. It is higher from 4 years ago where the Republicans were up 118,959. Let's keep going. We've got a blue state. It's Maryland. Harris, a big win here, 28.5. But the Republicans gained in voter registration. They're up almost 1,800. Dems dropped off almost 6,800. That is a pretty big gap. But in this state, Republicans barely outnumber unaffiliated or other voters. And the Dems have a gigantic advantage here, over 1.2 million. And that's down just slightly from 4 years earlier. Next, we've got West Virginia. Huge win here for Trump, a margin of 41.9. Republicans gained 926. Dems lost 1,200. GOP advantage almost 152,000. If you go back to 2020, the registration advantage here was actually in favor of the Dems. They were at 8,500. So it's another extremely red state, but the party registration affiliation clearly lagged behind. But not anymore. Huge advantage here for the GOP. The last state here is going to be Wyoming. This margin is over 45% for Trump. But since last month, Republicans lost almost 2,400. Here the Dems don't look so bad. They only lost 290. The advantage for the GOP is 190,900. That's just slightly lower than it was on election day. But it is noticeably higher than 2020, where they were up 138,000. So should the Republicans at all be worried that this state could be moving toward the left? I don't think so, given how red this state is. If Trump is going to win it by almost 46 points, that means if any active voters are going to be purged from the rolls, there's just not that many Democrats. So Republicans have plenty to lose in this state, and it might be similar in an extremely blue state like Hawaii, at least when it comes to cleaning up the voter rolls. It's hard to imagine that if these numbers were both positive, that the Republicans would not have clearly gained more than the Dems. We have seen that in some of these past videos. But for now, that's it. And it seems like every time I do this video, for the most part, it's Republicans making meaningful gains across almost every state. There's going to be different reasons for those changes, but there's no way Democrats can be thrilled about seeing their numbers dwindling in battleground states and losing big numbers in blue states. So it could be another couple of flips on the horizon. We should take a look at it again next month. But for now, these are the voter registration changes for the month of February. So let me know in the comments, which of these states surprises you the most? And is this all completely positive news for the GOP? Or are there some hidden positive metrics here for the Dems? And which other states do you think might flip in the future? Let me know down below. On your way out, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Join if you'd like to support the channel. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.